Hey guys, welcome back to the Nurse Bros. We're on episode 16, 26.
I don't know. We're getting up there. Hard to keep track now.
I don't even know what number this is anymore. We're just we're going off the cuff now. It's always surprising when we hear people out in the wild supporting us, but thank you again. This episode, we wanted to talk about certain topical news, but I wanted to address something first, Tyler. You just had something done, didn't you?
I did, yes. I'm coming off. I'm post-op right now. I'm a little
some type
injured.
Of procedure, some type of enlargement of something, or removal of something.
No, it was a removal of something. Little cystectomy for all our healthcare workers out there. They know what that is.
How'd that go?
I'm doing well. It went well. Best sleep of my life from the anesthesia. Now I know why Michael Jackson was addicted to the stuff. But I appreciate the concern from everyone. I got a lot of messages and texts from people yesterday asking how I was doing. So I was very kind and thoughtful of you to check in on me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Surgery's always scary, even if it is outpatient.
It's completely weird being on the other end. I'm used to being the one getting people prepped for surgery and whatnot, consent signed, and then I'm on the other end having to sign my own consents and getting prepped. I was telling them yesterday I was starving, so I was MPO after midnight, nothing to eat, after midnight, and I didn't go into surgery probably until 2:30, 3 o'clock almost, and I said, this is payback for all the patients. I had to say, it's okay, you're not gonna die, you just wait, the doc will be with you soon, you'll get your surgery done. 4:30 rolls around, they're rabid, they're angry with me, they want to kill me, they're gonna eat me. I know how they feel now. I completely get it, and that was payback for all those times.
All the times you made him suffer. Is it that bad? I'm trying to remember.
I think it's a mental thing where when you're told to do or not to do something, it puts like an extra strain. Because I know you and I, we fast all the time, so I never am bothered by it. But you're also able to drink water and whatnot, which makes a difference.
That's what I was gonna say. That's what would kill me is the lack of fluids.
Yeah, you and I drink about 7 liters a day.
I imagine you got COVID tested for this.
Yes, I was negative, thankfully, and for all the exposure I've had, it goes to show wearing a mask and the face shield definitely does work. While we're on the topic of COVID, had some fun COVID news the last couple weeks.
Yeah, it's been almost like an interesting kind of case study and what not to do and how this kind of plays out. It's its own microcosm of COVID spreading in a sense. What are we talking about in reference to? If you want to enlighten the audience.
Well, for everyone listening, we're referring to the Rose Garden ceremony at the White House, in which quite a few, almost if you include most of the White House staff as well, a couple dozen people are positive now with COVID, including the president.
Looks like about 38. Wow, 38.
That's more than some countries right now.
Right.
Just in the White House.
I was looking at this chart we have here for reference, and 38. That's not a minor spreading event. That's only like in this algorithm of Rose Garden Association and White House Association. That's a lot of positive cases for something that probably could have been avoided. Or
yeah, it was definitely a complete what you don't want to do, just irresponsible action. I'm not surprised, but here we are.
Mm-hmm. So if you think about just starting from like the top, so to speak, if you look at the ceremony itself, that's been touted, outside events are safe, whatever. We know that's not really the case. I mean, close quarters are close quarters, outside or not, you're likely still going to spread it. So you have this outside event, everyone's closely seated, barely a mask in sight, if any. There's like 1 or 2 of these people wearing masks. To me, that alone is just disregarding and not caring at all about the whole past 7, 8, 9 months that we've been dealing with.
And I mean, the few that had the masks on outside, if you watch on TV, the moment they were done speaking, they took them right off, went and hugged everyone, then they went inside. So it kind of defeated the purpose for those few that actually were even wearing them. Right. It really wasn't a point to.
Yeah, it's a complete disregard for everything that everyone has dealt with, not just the healthcare workers, but the isolation that we've all dealt with. To see kind of these political leaders having such a disregard for this almost is astounding. Makes you think like, wow, well, they don't care. Why should I?
Yeah,
Well,
for us being healthcare heroes, it's kind of bad when the White House and their recommendations from the CDC, they're kind of just shitting on you, basically, and they just really don't care. We knew that from the beginning.
and I'm astounded again that this is a partisan issue. It's almost like people on the Republican side, the right side, not everyone. Again, we have evidence here. A lot of people at this party belong to one type of party. Almost just they want to not wear masks and not abide by any social distancing rules to be spiteful to the other side.
To talk about that claim, too, I saw something online that said, this really could be a liberal hoax because, all these Republicans seem to be getting it, but the Democrats aren't. Democratic leaders aren't getting it. And I'm like, yeah, because they're wearing a mask, they're staying away from people, they're getting tested, they're not having parties for silly things and they're following CDC guidelines. They're doing what everyone else should be doing, and that's probably why they're not catching things or getting sick.
It's because they're following kind of suggestions, and then you have party where none of that was regarded. You could even say, oh, they've been getting tested. You want to tell me that all those people have been getting routinely tested and that you've ensured that they were all negative prior to coming into that party? Because I don't think that was the case.
And how do we know that's even true? It was said that, the president's getting his tests and whatnot. But I think we've come to see in the last week or so, it's not necessarily true. They refused they showed up late to the debate, if we want to call that a debate, and skipped the testing, said, no, we're fine. Well, they said they did the honor system. What the hell does that mean?
Yeah.
I mean, everybody else, they want law and order. Law and order. Well, one side is following rules that are set, and they're following their own set of rules. So for someone who preaches law and order, it really doesn't make sense when you don't actually follow any set of rules.
I don't understand where the complete disregard for this pandemic comes from. It's sad. It's sad because, again, we've seen people die. So many people die, and it's not that big a deal, I guess.
Well, to that point now, I mean, the president's literally now downplaying it, saying
it's not that big a deal.
It's not that big a deal. I had it. I'm fine. I'm a senior, and don't be afraid of this. Like the media wants you to be afraid. 220,000 people are dead.
Just in the United States.
Yeah,
not even counting
I think we're
worldwide.
over 1 million globally. What kind of treatment did he get compared to everybody else as well? They're not getting experimental cocktail drugs. They're not getting these hot, heavy antivirals. They're not getting any of these treatments. And in fact, people are told, don't come to the hospital unless it's a dire necessity if you can't breathe. But then he goes, what'd they say, out of a abundance of caution.
Yeah.
So other people who contract this highly contagious, deadly disease should not be taken care of out of abundance of caution.
And it's a funny thing because he got all these treatments. Some of them are coming down the pipeline for people, but a lot of them were experimental. He gets all these treatments, and then it's like, oh, it's not that big a deal. But he's not going to pay a dime of it. How about all these people that get it are in ICU for however long, and then they foot the bill for being on a ventilator? And so I mean, that's something to be scared of, if anything, is if you want to look at it one aspect. And we it's hard because as a nurse you want to tell your patients, oh yeah, I get it, you want to be safe, you have chest pain, come to the hospital. But we know, you and I know, that they're going to be paying an ungodly amount for these visits, for the caution. Again, to me, it's like him going to the hospital for precautionary treatment and observation, getting all these high-level treatments, and then being discharged. Similar to us having a patient that comes in for chest pain and gets all the testing done and then gets discharged. It's playing it safe, but again, the cost levels are astronomical, and he doesn't have to worry about that.
The hospital, Walter Reed, is totally socialist medicine. It's funded 100% by taxpayer dollars. So again, we can't have single payer for everyone, but we can for the guy who doesn't want anyone else to have it.
Yeah.
Again, it's playing by their own set of rules. We don't matter. It's been made clear. We really don't matter at the end of the day. whether it be just the general population, healthcare workers. Like, I mean, it's if this has shown us anything, it's just about how little anyone cares. What did you think about that little joyride?
I was literally about to ask you about that, because that to me was the strangest event of that whole hospital stay. Was him going into a closed vehicle. Was he wearing a mask? I think he was.
He was.
Yeah, but still going into a closed vehicle with other Secret Service agents and just waving.
They look so
to the
ridiculous with full PPE on, 2 feet away from this guy, just so he could wave. It was the lowest thing I've seen. You tell us, because everyone is not a nurse that listens to us or in healthcare, but if someone wants to leave, what's the process that has to occur?
There's a broadcast announcing that everyone clear the halls. Are you talking about like discharge or transportation?
And you can talk about how AMA, things like that.
Oh, in regards to COVID?
Well, yeah, that, but also, I mean, in the hospital, if you want to leave for any circumstances, you have to sign out.
Oh, yeah, like, I mean, at least in our hospital and kind of general policy, you can't really leave the hospital floor. That's considered leaving against medical advice. Of course, to go out and drive your car around the street outside, you would be going back in through the ER. You wouldn't just... Your spot wouldn't be saved.
Yeah, you couldn't just go back up to your hospital room. You have to readmit into the emergency room, wait a few more hours down there, wait for a bed to open. To me, none of that, I'm sure, that happened.
To me, that doesn't surprise me that he was allowed to do that. That's, King Trump can do what he wants in that regard. That doesn't surprise me. But I feel like it should not have been I want to focus more on the one, as I was saying, when you have to transport a COVID patient around, usually you're broadcasting kind of hospital wide, the COVID patient being transporting from X to Y, clear the halls, everyone keeps their distance. So there's a big level of isolation in just transporting someone, but also those patients are typically isolated. Anyone who comes in contact is in full PPE, not just the mask, not just the N95, but face shield, gown, kind of everything's covered. And you try and not keep them in close quarters, like a small vehicle. That's just asking for trouble. So how is that allowed to throw those Secret Service agents kind of under the bus and be like, well, you're going to bite the COVID exposure bullet, but the president needs his joyride? How is that okay?
And
like, even if you think COVID's not that big a deal, I think we can all, if we want to operate under that assumption, because I know many people do, they think, oh, it's just the flu and people die from the flu, whatever. We know that's not the case, but people do believe that. We want to operate under that assumption that, yes, people do die from COVID, but it's not that big a deal. That argument, then, how can you justify Trump putting people's lives in danger just to go wave at the crowd? Like, you're saying it's okay, it's not that big a deal. People may die, but, whatever. He can go do his joyride. I just don't understand it. I don't understand how that is justifiable by any way. Because we try and always look on the other side. I'm just trying to extrapolate whatever argument you can make for that. To me, there is none. There is no justification for that.
To mention flu deaths too, you talked about comparison. Last year alone, the flu caused 34.2 thousand deaths during the 2018-2019 influenza season. Now, we're at almost 220,000 with this, and that was also where many states and most of the country was locked down for a period of 2 months.
Right.
So it's not anything like the flu. And I guarantee you, probably half of these people who died refused to get a flu shot that probably could have helped them too. So whereas we do have a safe vaccination for the flu, we don't yet for this. And not to mention, we mentioned someone that no one seems to care about. Chris Christie got the former governor of New Jersey is severely sick. He's been in the hospital for 7 days, and I read an article today that he was just now treated with remdesivir, whereas the president got it on day 1.
So Chris Christie, looking at here, October 3rd is when he was tested positive. So that's 7 days out. That's usually when they start to get hit really bad, typically. I mean, it varies, but yeah. To me, it's funny. Chris Christie and Trump are kind of people you would expect to get hit pretty bad by this. There's always variances and variables. People react differently, but they're both kind of older, overweight. They're the kind of key candidates you would expect to get hit pretty bad.
Exactly.
But yeah, you're right. No one's really talking about Chris Christie. Really.
I mean, I think that's done by design. They don't want they want everyone to think like, well, Kayleigh McEnany is a 35-year-old woman. She's going to be fine. Stephen Miller's a 40-year-old man. He'll most likely be fine. It's fine. We got it, but we're fine. Don't worry. You guys can get it. Fear not. But they don't talk about the guy who's literally getting intensive care, who's extremely ill. And let's just say, just hypothetical, don't wish this on anyone, but let's say he is a casualty. One casualty out of so far 38 people, that's too many. It's unnecessary.
Something that could have been avoided. And if we talk about people who are forgotten, Herman Cain.
Yeah.
What happened to him? He died from getting COVID from a rally.
Yep.
And he's still tweeting from the grave, apparently.
I did see that. That was very interesting. That's like when these artists keep coming out with music posthumously. Oh, yeah. It's like they got a new album coming out. I'm like, geez, they're really putting in some work. So before we go, I just wanted to make it clear, I really don't give a damn if you have a D or an R next to your name, but everyone should know that I don't care if it's a president, vice president, senator, congresswoman, congressman, no one is better than you, and you are no better than anyone else. If they're getting these treatments, they should be available to everybody else who is sick. It should not be beholden to the president, let alone a man who paid $750 in taxes, but got our tax money to take care of his hospital bill. But we're not expected to have the same kind of treatment, so we have to go when people are near death to get treated. But they can go in an abundance of caution, or due to an abundance of caution. That's not how this country works. I'm sorry.
No, and it seems almost an antithesis to what America is and should be, is kind of equality and everyone's on the same playing field and democracy. Democracy is even coming into question, So it's a sad state of affairs, and
and they won't answer the question of when his last negative test was, or if he's had a negative test yet. With that, he was supposed to have a rally he was going to do in Florida today. The only reason they're not doing it is because people in the state sued the administration. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, what kind of irresponsible person are you that you're probably still positive and you're not going to wear a mask to talk for an hour because you won't wear one for 5 minutes?
Can't breathe if he wears one.
Yeah, he didn't look too hot with that breathing. Which, mind you, they said 8 people now from that Minneapolis rally or Minnesota rally are now positive. So no one's going to care about them. They're not going to get, the experimental cocktails. So
I get it. We want COVID to be over. No one's more tired. I'm tired of it too. But disregard for it and just don't care, and let's herd immunity. That's how we'll get through this. That's just gonna make this drag on longer than it needs to. It's disgusting. It really is.
It is, and hopefully, we will get through it eventually. Hopefully sooner than later. That is to be seen. Thank you guys for listening to us today. Remember, you can find us on YouTube. Just search The Nurse Bros. You can also search The Nurse Bros on any other place where you get your podcast from, Spotify, Apple, Google, whichever. Facebook.com/The Nurse Bros. And Josh and I are we're getting this video for you. We'll be on Zoom soon. Don't worry. The anticipation is building.
God, it's going to be such a different experience.
It will be. It will
be. You'll have to put on clothes.
God, I know. I'm going to have to look somewhat decent. All right, guys. Well, thank you again. We will talk with you soon.
Thanks. Bye.